A very good morning. Welcome to Power Breakfast. We are in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Nigel D'Souza, and with me is Anisha Jain. Good morning, Anisha Jain. Looking gorgeous as always. Early this morning, good times. Markets are looking good. Beautiful Anisha in the Mumbai News studio as well. So good times. There only crude prices that could spoil the party.
And you're looking dapper yourself. So, Nigel, with the fatherhood, it looks like you're becoming more handsome with each passing day.
Oh, that's good. Thank you so much, Anisha. But things are looking good. We've got a market as well to deal with. SGX Nifty is indicating a 100-point bump up. So let's get straight to the top stories. Well, Asian markets, they have traded higher on the back of a sharp rally that we saw on Wall Street. The Nikkei is up close to around 350 points odd. It's virtually at the high point of the day. The Kospi as well is looking good. That market as well was up close to around 1%. And the other couple of markets, the Straits as well as the Taiwanese index, both of them had opened up with very, very strong gains. So fair to say, Asian markets, they're buoyant early this morning, and that would mean the SGX Nifty is likely to open up with a gain of around 100 points on the back of strong global cues. But just keep in mind that we have rallied close to around 400 points from the recent lows. So just keep that in mind. How much of the good news is factored in? Can we hold on to those gains? Well, the start is going to be strong, Anisha, but holding on to those gains is going to be very, very vital.
Oh, yes, and the start is going to be in the green because the U.S. markets ended higher. Now, led by the strong earnings, the Dow surged around 547 points, whereas Nasdaq ended up by around 214 points. Strong results came in from Netflix, and that one was up around 14% after the bell. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, as well as United Health came out with strong earnings. Now, there was strong economic data as well. That was one of the reasons why the sell-off that we saw last week was kind of recovered yesterday. CNBC's Frank Holland gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. stocks rebounding today on strong earnings. Here's a look at those numbers. The market's still recovering from last week's sell-off. The Dow surging 547 points, the S&P gaining 59, and the Nasdaq improving by 214 points. U.S. industrial production up for a fourth straight month in September, led by manufacturing and mining output. The Fed did note that momentum suddenly hit the brakes, saying economic factors are dragging against production. Tesla shares jumping 5% today on news that a judge has approved a settlement between CEO Elon Musk and the SEC. Musk was accused of committing fraud when he tweeted he secured the funding needed to take Tesla private. Under that settlement, Musk has to pay a $20 million fine and step down as Tesla's chairman within 45 days. He's barred from that position for at least 3 years. Apple announcing today a small number of Chinese users have had their Apple IDs stolen. The stolen identities are the result of phishing scams, and Apple is saying they haven't found any signs of a breach into the company's security systems.
Okay,
That's
so U.S. markets ending higher. In fact, let's get in some opinion from Larry Fink of BlackRock and Telly Lear of Oppenheimer Funds. They had to say about the road ahead for the U.S. markets and the key sectors to bet on.
I think people there was a huge commentary that we're at peak earnings, that earnings can only get worse, which we could all debate that. We believe we have a couple more good quarters in earnings, but there is that view. There's a view that I think we're hearing that in Europe more than in the United States. Companies are having margin pressures because rising wages, which may be a good thing for the overall economy, but not as good for corporate profitability. And you're seeing modest inflation increases in certain finished goods, some of it in the United States because of our tariffs in terms of steel and things like that. And so overall, you're seeing more consternation, more fear. We are now witnessing worldwide at a time where the American dollar is very strong, and we're witnessing very strong energy prices. This is one of the reasons why we're having market volatility, why the emerging market's doing really poorly. This is one of the reasons why, getting back to BlackRock's earnings, we had such large divergent beta, outflows in emerging markets, downdraft in emerging markets. I mean, one of the great statistics that stunned me, and we haven't talked about it enough, since the beginning of the second quarter, emerging market equities are down 10%, and yet the S&P is up 10%, a 20% divergence. We need to have proper diplomacy with Saudi. Our hope is that energy prices drift back lower, especially if the dollar continues to be a strong currency.
If you agree that the cycle continues in the U.S., I think you want to kind of dip your toe in some of those more economy-sensitive sectors, including technology, that have been beaten down right here. But remember, bottoming is a process. The pullback in February took months. So, markets don't inflect in V-shaped formation, so it could take some time. Technology, I think, could benefit on a rebound. I'm just not seeing economic recession in the cards right here, right now. The yield curve is still technically positively sloped. So that gives me reason to expect the expansion to continue.
Well, no worries in terms of the European markets. They ended with good gains yesterday. Investors, they digested the strong earnings that we saw on Wall Street. Also kept an eye out on the escalating tensions between Saudi Arabia and the United States. So frontliners, they did very, very well. Markets, remember, they're also focused on the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi Arabian journalist. That has rattled the financial markets as well. But for yesterday's trading session, we had the frontliners that did well. Take a look at some of those peripheral indices. The Italian index, the Irish index, both of them saw a big rally in yesterday's trading session. And not just that, we've been talking about the Indian markets bouncing up well. Well, I'll tell you what, the Brazilian index for this month is up nearly around 8.5 to around 9% odd. In yesterday's trading session, it was up close to around 3%. And the Russian index as well was up close to around 1.5%. So the global markets rally continues. And in fact, emerging markets have done well. And India has been part of that.
Okay, so big gains coming in for the emerging markets in yesterday's trade as well. But let's take a look at the currency space now, because the dollar index has rebounded from yesterday's low as rising stock markets reflected improving risk appetite. In fact, yesterday it had touched a level of 94.8 and today it's back above the 95 mark. The yen also marginally strengthens against the dollar.
Well, everything's looking very, very positive, but will this be the party pooper? Crude oil prices, they are higher after cooling off in yesterday's trading session. Brent crude prices currently holding at around that $81.50 per barrel. Remember, yesterday, briefly, it did breach the $80 per barrel mark.